Looks like Paul's here. I'm gonna take a minute break. I think the pizza may be here. This will be edited out.
Cool. Nice. Yeah. Turn. Oh, this person like my tweet. My body is my possession.
Really make him wait it out.
There we got 7 minutes. The sliced pizza. Tiger, stop.
Should open in with that. That's what he sent in an email.
You gonna play it on the stream?
I mean, I could. Should I? Or...
Yeah. That'd be a great way to open.
Welcome, Paul, and we are live. We're not live streaming today, but I thought we'd start by playing your new video, and then we could talk about that when we post the recording later tonight or tomorrow.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
all right,
thanks for
good. Hi,
coming
guys.
back on.
Hey, Paul.
Hey.
How are you?
Well, I'm great. How are you?
Good.
Awesome.
Good.
Doing
Good,
great.
good.
Yeah.
Welcome
Good
back.
to see you.
I'm glad we could put this together again.
Yeah. Can you see the video, Paul, or can only us? Right now it says from the alpha, showing the monkey smashing the bones of another monkey. To the omega. Yeah, for people just listening, dude.
Oh, sure. Woo!
Hold down PC. Questions.
Well, first, let's introduce Paul. Everyone, this is Paul Schatzken. I'm pronouncing that correctly, right?
You are pronouncing it correctly. Go to the head of the class.
Yeah.
All right, good. This is our second conversation with him. Highly recommend you go to our first one. We talked a lot about Townsend Brown, a lot of cool stuff like that. This episode, we're going to dive a little bit deeper, maybe delve into some other exciting areas. But we wanted to start with that video. Paul, can you, first of all, I love the video because it's very thought-provoking. But could you give us some background on that and why you made it? What thoughts what inspired you to put it together?
Well, honestly, what inspired me was simply looking at that footage. And I'm going to give a talk at a conference. It's actually called the Cosmic Summit in the middle of June in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I'm beginning to just gather the material that I'm going to present. I'm tentatively calling the presentation Back to the Future or A Glimpse of the Future, which is a reference to that last scene in Back to the Future, which if you can pull it up from my channel, you might also show, because there's a couple of elements in that scene that speak directly to the work that I've been doing over the last several decades.
Wow.
The introduction of fusion energy when the DeLorean comes back from the future, the fact that the time machine is a capacitor, which is what Townsend Brown was working on, and then just the fact that the character's name is Emmett, E-M-E-T-T Brown.
Oh, interesting.
So I have been thinking a lot lately, particularly since seeing Oppenheimer last summer, how we have been focused on the most destructive elements of what we learned in the last century in Einstein's cosmology, the papers that he released starting in 1905 and then with general relativity in 1915, that we've been so entirely focused on the destructive capabilities that we've lost track of the really creative capabilities, which we begin with our ability to look at each other, which comes from the very first paper that Einstein wrote in 1905 on the photoelectric effect, which the first guy that I wrote about, Philo Farnsworth, used to create video, which is how you and I can see each other. So while I was gathering the material for this presentation that I'm going to do, I came across that footage. The scene is actually called The Dawn of Man. It's the first 8 minutes of Stanley Kubrick's epic 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, okay. Wall Street bitch thought it was you in an ape suit. It's like Paul's gonna emerge.
I'm flattered that you recognized me. Thank you. and I've been looking at all this footage also of nuclear bomb explosions, and so when I went back and I looked at that footage, I have been making the case, first of all, that Kubrick was dead on with this idea that a species on this planet was seeded with superior intelligence. And that over millennia, we have been seeing what this species could do with that. That it began with, in that instance, in that cinematic case, the ape discovers the bone, and then he can beat his neighbors with it.
Right.
And the case that I've kind of been making, and I realize that it's either idealistic or pedantic or moralistic, whatever you want to call it, is that millennia later, we're still basically apes beating each other with clubs.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I love
History repeats itself.
I love what you said earlier. We've the human race has been focused solely on how destructive we can be.
Yeah.
And as opposed to how creative we can get, which is really interesting.
And we certainly have gotten very creative with this, but we went. Our attention seems to be focused on how we can eliminate life on the planet. And you have to wonder, would a more enlightened species have perhaps gone more directly to what Einstein said to Philo Farnsworth in 1948 was the good part of his theories, which was generating electricity from controlled nuclear fusion, which we still haven't really figured out. But maybe Farnsworth did, which is what drew me into that story and into all this material in the first place.
Paul, just to go back to Stanley Kubrick, I'm curious if you think that he staged the first or filmed the staging of the moon landing, or if the moon landing was staged.
I absolutely do not.
Okay, because that's a conspiracy. I think is that he filmed it, right?
No, I'm reasonably certain. Only allowing for a minuscule percentage that I could be wrong, that we made that trip.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it too.
Yeah.